Listen Money Matters was a huge, giant podcast, but Andrew and Matt stopped publishing it.
A lot went wrong. I think it was a bad fit of people trying to run a podcast. It was all talent, no COO, if you will. That's a tough place to be in because, well, what's the business model in a podcast? It's advertising, right? He wanted to make software. I wanted advertising that I didn't have to sell. I just wanted to read the ads. I wanted to do my creative.
It was getting tens of thousands of downloads per episode, but they pulled the plug on it. What happened? Why did they stop publishing?
I didn't get to see it at its peak, I don't think. But I know at some point it was 80,000 downloads an episode.
Okay.
And I felt like a goddamn rock star because it's like we're on stage, there's people listening to us. It was just like I was performing. It was like being in high school, like my high school plays and high school musicals and stuff.
I invited Matt over to drink some beers, and we talked about it. We talked about what happened. That's what this video is all about. If you want to hear more from Matt, check the link in the description. He's doing his own stuff over at moneylab.co.
What's easy to me is to create what I think needs to exist in the world. That's how Listen Money Matters came. That's how it, it's how it was birthed because I struggled with money. I don't struggle anymore, but I struggled hard. And when I started my business, I figured it out. Not great, but I had help, and I found Andrew through a community, which is another reason I love a community. And he asked me to join. He had a blog, just Listen Money Matters, the blog. And then we started talking, and his wife kind of heard us, because he lived in a small apartment, I lived in a small place, and she was like, "You guys are interesting. You guys have some sort of chemistry." And I was like, "Look, I'm an audio guy. I can make we can do a podcast." She's the one that came up with the podcast idea. I was like, "I can do that all day." And that's how that started. And the gentleman's agreement was that we would do a podcast together, and I would help grow it, and then do all the work, basically, technically, And we did it for 6 months every week, and then we went to daily because John Lee Dumas. And
what year? What year is this?
2013 we started it. And then 2014 we went to podcast movement. We were going daily, we were going hard, we were growing really fast. And we heard from a guy at Libsyn, or Liberation Syndication, as its full name. He was like, if you get to and this is back in 2014. So he was like, if you get to 5,000 downloads, you could start to get advertisers. And we're like, all right. We were like very close to that. We were like, 5,000 downloads a month, if I didn't say that. And we were getting like, I think 10,000 downloads a month or something.
Okay.
So we were like, all right. That was the whole gentleman's agreement between me and Andrew was I would help grow the podcast and he would be the money man. And that was it. The money man phrase was the broad topic. And
what's Andrew's background?
So he worked for iHeartRadio, but he's a programmer.
Okay, so he's a tech guy, not a marketing or sales person.
No, and not a radio guy. And he'll be the first to admit it. Like he was like, it's not his thing, but he has a voice for radio. I mean, I don't mean that like negatively. He doesn't have a face for radio. He has a voice for radio. Right. He also has a face for radio, and he's okay with me saying that. But he has a voice for radio. He has such a distinct gravel in his voice that differentiates me and him. And I think we had a rapport. We were both from New Jersey. We both had this this grittiness to us, and we decided to make a podcast that was. And then for me, I came from shock jock sort of radio, and I'm like, what if that was a fucking money podcast? Like, what if Howard Stern did a money podcast? Is kind of where I came from. So the music was, I wrote the music for the theme song, was heavy metal, blah blah blah, and it was just it worked, and of course it worked. In hindsight, I could sit there and go we just filled a void. We made money accessible to a group of people that felt like They didn't want to listen to a bunch of like old white men talk about money. We were white men, but we weren't old, and we were brash. And I was, and it was unique because I was terrible with money, and Andrew was good with money. And there was that dichotomy where I was sort of representing the audience, and he was sort of not representing the audience. And it worked for forever, and we grew an audience, and we continued to grow, and it switched because I dropped off because there came a point where the show needed to make money,
right?
And we were there, and that was the whole point. And then Andrew did not, and I'm not going to discredit him for this because this is exactly what I also didn't want to do, was to sell advertisers. I hated that. And he wasn't good at it, and he also hated it. So here we are, two guys. I'm a creator, so I love that world. He is a money guy, but more of a developer mindset.
Sure.
And did not want to schmooze financial companies to give us money.
Right.
And where does that leave you? That's a tough place to be in because, well, what's the business model in a podcast? It's advertising, right? He wanted to make software. I wanted advertising that I didn't have to sell. I just wanted to read the ads. I wanted to do my creative, part.
And this is probably what year? Like 2016?
2014.
2014. Okay.
So this is long time ago.
Can you share any download numbers or anything? You don't have to.
No,
but.
I mean, so I didn't get to see it at its peak, I don't think. But I know at some point it was 80,000 downloads an episode.
Okay.
I don't know if that was post me, which I think it was, or at my peak. But
Gotcha.
I know that it got that high.
Got it.
Which to me was high.
That's
it's insane.
That's a lot of downloads.
It's a lot of downloads.
You probably could have earned a lot of money from
it. And that's the thing, and it did earn money.
Right.
And they did have advertisers, and they tried to work with a lot of like third-party advertising sellers. A lot went wrong. I think it was a bad fit of people trying to run a podcast. It was all talent, no COO, if you will. I don't want to be the one that comes up with the freaking questions and comes up with the show notes. That's what I don't want to be, that guy. I just want to be, and that makes the argument. Then what do you want to do? Like, what's your value?
You just want to hang out.
Yeah, you just want to be here and be on mic, and I do think there's value to that. There's some value to that.
Yeah.
Like there's value to the guy that's like the comedic relief. Not that I'm saying I'm a comedic relief, but like the guy that doesn't put together a show, he's just there to like crack jokes when there's a lull or something.
I mean, we could find a role for you.
I could do that. I feel love that.
I mean, you probably interviewed well over 100 with all the shows you've done, right?
Maybe. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I never thought of it.
And it's yeah, and like as you're thinking, like you have a bank of questions, and you're like, oh, I could ask a variation of that question that applies for that person.
I'm also I try to be interested in that person's thing. That's what when I was doing Money Lab Live, I only wanted to invite on my friends that I knew, and I knew I always had something to talk to them about, and I didn't want to invite on somebody or somebody that I wasn't friends with yet, but I really liked their stuff. And I just was genuinely interested, and I just like had a million questions, as opposed to somebody who I was like, oh, all right, Susie Orman wants to be on the show. What the fuck are we gonna talk to Susie Orman? And that happened. Like I was like, what do we talk to Susie Orman about? Like, and it was like funny because she was recording in her closet, because that's how you record when you need sound deadening. And I was like, I want to talk about you being in your closet. That's hilarious. Just in general. And she was like fine, but I feel like I got railroaded in that one. I feel like I fit in really well with that, like her sense of like brashness.
Yeah.
And I just felt like just ostracized in that interview. But again, I didn't really know much about Susie. I had to watch a ton of Susie Orman because I didn't know Susie Orman. So like,
right.
I wasn't like a fan. So it was hard to interview somebody like that.
When you're doing that, it's like your press, but like more or less, like you should have some VA like doing research and like handing you a one pager that has like all the information.
That's always what I wanted, right? That's what I was striving for.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to be the talent. Like we went to the FinCon where I met Steph, and I felt like a goddamn rock star because it's like we're on stage, there's people listening to us. We had Chris Tucker on. It was just like I was performing. It was like being in high school, like my high school plays and high school musicals and stuff. Zac Efron. So we were doing that, and it was so much. It was, to me, it was the best. It was the best experience because I got to be on stage and doing a thing that I felt like I was good at.
Yeah.
You know, and now this is all in my basement by myself.
Yeah. You peaked too soon, you know.
It's peaked. It's all downhill from here. It's all downhill.
We should like schedule a regular like weekday drinking all afternoon, and then we do a live stream.
Man, that sounds glorious and tragilarious.